Hey there, everyone. Michael Damon here with the latest episode of Starbeam.one, Stand Up and Shine and Shill. It's a little series put together to keep people up to date with my project, Starbeam.one. The show is modeled after the agile methodology of a stand-up where you tell your teammates what you're working on, what you're going to be working on, any sort of friction points that you are encountering. And I've added so much more. Let's begin. So yes, got to check my microphone here to make sure that it's working and is turned on, because for the second time in the series of this broadcast, and this is a doozy, I did not record with the microphone on. It's basically a 25-minute recording, and that was a bummer. And so, also it was 25 minutes of me talking, so maybe it was a good thing that we can try to reduce that this time. With a limited number of minutes of people's time out there. But, it was actually just talking a little bit about what's going on with, Starbeam.one here. And one of the items that's not on there is that we're back on schedule-ish. I try to make sure that I have an episode here at the top of every month, the first Tuesday of every month, and I've actually done really good about that until last month. And so, just getting back into the schedule here, wanting to have the first Tuesday of every month, get the schedule of the show back on. Hopefully I can get this out for today. I don't know, a lot of time's been spent already today on this, but moving on from there, this week I was supposed to have version 1.1 out, and this was more like quality version released after version 1, which was the last show that we had, and that was on the 20th of February last month, so a few weeks ago. And for 1.1, it was basically just clearing up and cleaning up all of the issues that were found with that, but also doing some model changes, which I will talk about, and getting into that, talking about technical debt. That's sort of the focus here with 1.1, and I was hoping to have this done by today, and yesterday I had a problem with testing, and right out of the gate, 2 queries were really slow with the changes that I made, and this really bummed me out, and I was really focused on that for almost half a day there, maybe even more, and I realized after that half of the day, hey, this is not the production app, this is the administration app. So there's 2 apps that comprise Starbeam.one. There's actually 3. There's the API now, and then there's the gateway app that everyone uses, and that's kind of the important part. But there's also an administration/support app that only I use, and that's where these queries were slowing down. And usually I catch this, right? But I was just so focused on, the new model doesn't, my thinking was that if these queries are failing, then, there's all the other kinds of queries that are also failing. And that turned out not to be the case. So I started testing more, and everything worked really, really well. So there's, some good news with that. But it kind of derailed my schedule, and this is just kind of getting back to almost version 1.1. I'm kind of jumping back into the previous line item there. Just didn't get it done, but I will be working on that, and we'll talk about this next slide, attending to the issues that I found and getting 1.1 out. And so it's more of a quality release, and getting back into technical debt. That's kind of where we're at. I just kind of want to talk about this a little bit, because basically, if you recall, last December, I wanted to, we were talking about doing subscriptions and getting subscriptions, and I started down that road, and then boom, I immediately realized that I was having a lot of trouble with getting, Azure deployments and environments, and that was really causing a lot of pain for me. So I spent 2 months getting that done, and that's technical debt, right? It's sort of these things that are in your development environment and in your code that sort of add up over time, like regular debt, right? And you have to pay it off eventually, and I prefer to pay off debt rather than have it sit around. And I do this my personal life. I've been out of debt for 12 years now, personal debt, and it is such a wonderful feeling. All of my finances are in front of me, so to speak, and so it's a personal goal of mine, and it's a personal value of mine, and it extends to my technical, my technical approach as well with code and whatnot. And so that's kind of why I'm after that. But hopefully, long story short here, it looks like I'm going to be spending just as much time this time as I did last time. But, hopefully this will help build future versions, and I won't be spending so much time doing this, because that's sort of the point of attending to your technical debt, as it helps you to focus more on your core features and getting more development and features done rather than having to having debt just sitting there and taking up your cycle. So moving on to these other versions that I have. So 1.1 was kind of the wrapping up the technical debt aspect and finishing up some of the stories or tasks that we had for 1.0, and it's more of a quality release. But 1.2 is we're starting to get into features, and I'm knocking on wood here because every time it seems like we're talking about features, we move on to we get more technical debt or moving on to a technical debt story. But hopefully all that's in the past. I will say the administration application works really well now. There's a lot of things I'm not worrying about, and so there is a lot of comfort in that. But 1.2 will be our basically I'm rewriting the publishing model. I'm going to be making it easier for artists to publish. And so, 4 years ago when I started this, I had a very particular idea of how I wanted to publish, and it was my own personal idea, and some things were good about it, but others were not. And so, and also the kind of the bigger point here is that a lot of the code was done with a brand new .NET 5.0, and that's, now we're at 8, moving on to 9. There's a lot of things that have changed there, and, it kind of works, but there's a lot. I'm just not happy with that code, so I'm just going to rewrite it, and I'm going to rewrite it now. We have a community. We have people actually actively using the product. I have a really good idea of how they use it. And I'm going to make it better in that regard and make it a lot better. And so I have a lot of really good ideas about that. And that's 1.2. And then 1.5, this could be 1.3, but this 1.5 will be the automatic purchasing or the subscriptions that I talked about all the way back in December. And this is the reason why it's happening after that is that the 1.2 is going to basically be a new foundation for our publishing. And so the automatic purchasing will sit on top of that. There were a lot of things I wanted to do with automatic purchasing, but I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to put that in 1.2. And then finally for version 2.0, and I'm hoping to have this done by October, there's a new feature here. I don't want to talk about it just yet, sort of going along with that knocking on wood, don't jinx anything just yet, but hopefully as October approaches, I will be talking more about that, and I'm really excited about that. So that's the kind of lay of the land here for the next 6 to 7 months, and we can now move on to the next slide. Okay, so what did I do? I talked about, attending to technical debt. And what does that mean exactly? Well, we have this process model that I've been developing for quite some time, and this basically does anything long-running operations. So whether it be notification, you think notifications are really simple. You're just sending a little 1 or 2 or a counter to someone's display, but they could have email, and email takes some time too, right? Or they could have another feature. So that's sort of a hidden long-running operation. And so what I do is I fire off messages, and then these worker processes, these external processes, pick them up. Well, the way that I designed this 4 years ago, getting back to just starting out, not really understanding things, I made the wrong approach here. And now we have 22 processes, and each process has its own table and a set of other joins, more importantly, that really slow things down. And so now all of them have been consolidated into one table, and the joins have also been consolidated into one table in each of their respects, and things are much nicer, except for that query that I ran into a problem. I'm still going to figure that out for the administration administration application, and so that's going to be a focus. But by and large, everything works really well now, and it took a lot of work because there's 22 different entities, 22 different tables. You have to go through each and every one. And actually, some were already inheriting already, and so it's like 16, 15. It's still a lot of work, and so all of that has been intended to, and it took a lot to get that tested, and it's almost there. So I probably have like 2 or 3 more days left on that. And other model improvements, to be honest, I'm not sure what I was thinking here, because most of my time has been with the process model improvements, and I think there might have been just some things along the way that I noticed that I attended to, but that's by and large, that's what I spent most of my time on. Okay, so now what am I doing? I got version 1.1, 1.2, 1.5, which also could be 1.3. It's going to be a bigger story. There's going to be a little bit more involved there, but then 2.0. But now for what I have left here is I've got these tasks that I identified yesterday. Instead of releasing, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to just take these tasks and just put them down here. So I still have to do that. And 1.1 will be released probably Thursday or Friday, maybe even Saturday. We will see how we go. And then there's this other story, flattening migration. So each time that you do a data migration, it's actually predicated on, it's actually a schema migration. So you're changing the database, and a database you can think of as a concrete wall. You know, when once concrete settles, it's pretty in there, right? And so when you change something, you got to be very specific about it, and it's a lot of work to do so. And there's not only that, but there's also any data that is participating with that schema, and they have to make sure that the data agrees with that too. There's a lot of work with that, and so with each and every migration, that's what that is a step forward. You can think of it that way to get that migration in there. And so we have a lot of them. We've got over 100 of these, and what you can do is you can flatten them. And so I'm thinking with version 1.0, with version 1.1, we can get to the point where we can flatten those and just have one migration and then start the process over again to where you can just build little small increments. So that's going to be a focus. And then finally, crossing my fingers and knocking on wood here, we're going to get started on 1.2. Again, I feel like I jinx it a little bit every time I mention it to push it back every time I mention it. But I have a feeling that we have enough of that technical debt solved, and we will finally start getting there. Friction points. We had a few here that we had. Twitter. Twitter's actually solved. No more problems with Twitter, but we had a problem. It's a really weird situation for me that occurred with a developer forum, and I got myself muzzled on the developer forum. And I really, in hindsight, it's so weird to think about how this happened because it's self-inflicted. It's a self-inflicted thing that occurred when it started with an email notification for an older thread. I got this email notification, and I should have paid more attention to it. But for some reason, it showed up in my inbox that I had a notification for an older thread. And I remember seeing the thread. I'm like, this seems like an older thread, but I didn't reply to it. I remember because the person that pinged me on this thread had another thread, and I replied on that thread, but I didn't reply on this other thread. And I saw the message, and I was like, I think I've already seen this before, and I just didn't find enough detail there to realize that it was an older thread. But somehow I got this notification for this older thread in my inbox. So it's a really weird situation. It was self-inflicted. Anyways, I replied to this thread, and the wording wasn't I didn't think it was as bad that warranted the muzzling, but I basically was like, hey, basically this person's account was banned, and they were basically looking for help. That's the kind of resource I am on Twitter development forum now. And this person's not even a developer; they're just an outside user that is looking for Twitter help. I'm sure there's just millions of these people that are out there. And so I was like, you can use this service called Do Not Pay. And you do have to pay, which is ironic because the name of it is Do Not Pay. But they helped us out, helped Lady Leah out with her band account when she had one. And that's what I was like, you have to pay, but it's worth it not to have to deal with a forum like this. And that's the only thing I can think of that got me into this problem, because sure enough, like 5 or 6 hours later, I got a message saying too combative. Well, credit to Twitter for actually providing a reason for banning, because usually that doesn't happen. They just do something without warning and they don't explain it. So there was that, but I'm thinking, is this really combative? I don't think so. Not for me, not for some of the things I've seen and some of the things I've said. I've definitely said a lot worse. And also some of the forum posts in there, speaking of just regular people who aren't even developers, they've got these rants. They're really expressing a lot of anger there. And let's just say that I've read the word fascism a few times in their posts. And I'm thinking, there's a little bit more combativity there than what I said, But anyways, that got me muzzled for 2 months. And I'm not using that forum anymore. So, hey, knock yourself out. I'm kind of avoiding you anyways. Outside of that, there's nothing going on. We've absolved the Twitter issues, and outside of that, which is actually kind of a blessing for me, because that means I'm forced not to use that or even think about Twitter for 2 months. So definitely okay for me there. But moving on to Microsoft, there have been a few issues that have been resolved, that they were crossed out there. The redraw issue, actually, there was a problem. Basically, the debugger was not showing up for like 5 or 6 seconds. Well, I found an alternative way of starting the debugger or hosting it. Right now, by default, it's IIS Express, and that turns out to a little slow. You can actually save a few seconds using Kestrel, which is the new hosting model, or newish, or was new when it first arrived 5 or 6 years ago. Kestrel is a way of hosting ASP.NET applications, and so I'm using that, and that's saved 2 to 3 seconds for the hosting time or to start up a new debugger. And so now instead of waiting 15, 16 seconds, or maybe up to 20 seconds at some points, I'm waiting like 10, 11 seconds, and it feels a lot better. So there's still a redraw problem, and I just don't have a feeling. I just don't get the feeling at all they're going to work on it. So I'm just like, I went in there and I was like, hey, I know we've got this open and I found a workaround, but if you want to work on this still, go for it. But I'm just, I shouldn't even say that because I got the feeling that I could work on it anyways. Okay, so moving on to the problems that are remaining here, we've got build times, which are Razor issues, the Razor tooling, and they know about that. Still an issue there, and that might be 5 months, might be more, might be less, who knows, but they are working on it, so I'm being patient with that. 20 seconds, 25 seconds every time I need to build a Razor project. It's really kind of painful, but the other bigger thing is that I'm reporting issues to Visual Studio, and they're having problems with the error reporter, so I'm submitting a bug, and the bug that I'm submitting also has a bug in the submission process, and so that is also starting to be a big thing, and this is happening. I've reported this back in December, and it's now an issue now where I have another issue that I opened up. I have 80 gigs of space, 80 gigabytes of space on my hard drive dedicated or holding failed Visual Studio tickets. 80 gigabytes, that's almost a third of my drive space. I'm just like, this can't be a good thing, right? And so it's sort of becoming a big issue. All right, let's move on to the next slide here. Man, I spent 25 minutes before, now I'm at 15. I can probably have this done in 20, so I'm going to save everyone 5 minutes of me talking. I can already tell it, my voice is getting a workout here. Okay, so getting into effectiveness levels, I'm actually really lazy here and haven't really moved these very much, but talking about morale, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling pretty decent with direction of things now, and I've got my new schedule now at October for version 2, and if we can make that, things going to be a lot better. And I'm really hoping to get this X factor for version 2 together, and I'm really really excited to show people that when it's ready. Schedule, again, it's really frustrating part, as I think I've already discussed here, is the technical debt and attending to things that just keep popping up, and but also kind of just on the other hand, being very satisfied with the versioning going forward. Version 1.1, version 1.2, version 1.5, might be version 1.3, but also version 2, right? So now I've got a very clear vision with that, and I'm very happy with that. The other thing too is if I'm able to get to version 2 by October, that will be a massive win, because technically it took me 2 years to get to version 1, right? So that's also kind of shows, that will also prove that the code and the time that I've been spending on technical debt has paid off, so to speak. If we're able to get that to version 2 quickly, that will be a huge major win. Technology, I've explained all of that. The issues mostly with Twitter, but that Twitter thankfully isn't anything that I'm using day to day. That seems to be, credit and kudos to Visual Studio. They're doing really good work out there, and they're responsive, unlike Twitter. I've mentioned that a few times. And they're really, they care about their product, and it shows. Marketing, I've done nothing to do with marketing. Mostly I just keep this at 6.5 because when I first started out, on Twitter, it was getting absolutely no traction. My marketing was 2 or 3. I know a little bit more now, but there's really not a lot of effort there yet. But hopefully in the next 6-7 months, that will change. Support, haven't been a lot of support tickets, but when they do, I feel pretty good about them. All right, there we go. Under 20 minutes. Saved me and everyone else 5-6 minutes there, and just want to thank everyone for their participation and support. There's still people out there helping out and using the application. I want to send out a shout to Steve, doing really great work there. Fedwin the Wise, excellent, really helping out a lot. You're really just he's got access to the starbeam.one account, and really helping out with all the activity there daily, and it's just really awesome to have you aboard. Very blessed to have you aboard, and I hope that I can help you out, compensate you for your time here, more than the Scooby stacks that I'm handing out at the moment, but I just want to send you out kudos there, and to everyone else, I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for your participation. Until next time, stay safe and stay bright out there. Goodbye.